Good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. That's right, it is me, Uncle Lou, and my new anxiety doll. I made a lot of fun of Ryan Williams about that stupid ass anxiety doll he had, and it is stupid. It's retarded, actually. And he didn't have a great game yesterday. He dropped that pass. Bama fans cussing him out on Twitter. They probably deleted it now. But since Bama won the game, and I did make fun of Ryan Williams and his anxiety doll, not really this week. I didn't really make fun of Bama this week. We'll get to that in a second. But when they lost to Florida State and the whole thing came out with the anxiety doll, we all had a lot of fun with that. So as my punishment for making fun of Ryan Williams' anxiety doll and then Georgia losing for the 100th time in a row to Alabama, I'm going to carry this anxiety doll. This is Uncle Lou's anxiety doll around with me for the entirety of this Your Season Is Over video. And then I'm going to try to remember to have it in my lap for the call-in show on Tuesday. You know, I do a call-in show every Tuesday at 9. I know I'm going to get a lot of calls from people that want to laugh at me and laugh at Georgia and all that kind of thing. So me and my anxiety doll will be on Tuesday night at 9. And you're welcome to call in and give us the what for if you need to. I am going to have to switch hands every once in a while, though, like I normally do on these Your Season. Don't worry, I've still got the doll. So the doll will be in one hand or the other. Don't worry. You may not be able to see it the entire time, but I promise I'm going to carry it around the entire time. All right. Welcome to, how about, can we somehow prop her up? I don't want you looking at her ass. Y'all are sick. Stop looking at my anxiety doll's ass. Stop doing that. Cover your ass up. Right there. These people are sick. Welcome to the Your Season Is Over video, the only Sunday afternoon college football season recap video that actually matters. Week 5 edition, and we have an amazing list of losers today. This was one of those weekends in college football where there was a lot of games where no matter who won or lost, it was going to be great for the Your Season Is Over video. That happens anytime you have matchups involving top 10 teams or undefeated teams or controversial teams for whatever reason or whatever. So you knew there was going to, like Oregon and Penn State, somebody's got to lose. Georgia and Alabama, somebody's got to lose. There was plenty of others too. LSU and Ole Miss, Auburn and Texas A&M, Mississippi State and Tennessee. So just a lot of those types of games. So we knew it was going to be a good one. And it is. It absolutely is. Golly, I don't know how do I normally do this? My arms are hurting already. This is actually, why do I have this? Did I go out and buy it just for this video? No. No. My oldest child, God, I got to switch hands again. I'm down bad having to carry this thing around, y'all. My oldest child, when she was born, I had bought this bear before she was born, actually. I bought this little cheerleader bear for her to carry home from the hospital when she was born, my oldest, my daughter. So I bought this a week or so before she was born. When her mom went into labor, I took it up to the hospital with us, and this rode home with her in the car seat on the way home. It was with her in the hospital, literally an hour after she was born. She was cuddled up with what has now become, can't believe I say this, Uncle Lou's anxiety doll. Yeah. All right. Oh, no. Drop the anxiety doll. This was a bad idea. I'm going to have the anxiety doll. I promise. You just have to take my word for it because it may be down here, but trust me, it's in my hand. I'll try to keep it right here because y'all don't believe anything I say. All right. Welcome to the Your Season Is Over video. You already know we're going to talk about the list of losers, of course. I've got the Heisman list. I've got the paper plate special. I've got the Juice Poot special too. I've got a list of what I think is the best teams. I think there's 10 or 12 on there. I don't know who's winning the Natty, but I've got a list of who I think are like the best 10 or 12 teams. Doesn't necessarily mean those teams are or should be ranked in the top 12 right now, but it's just who I think has looked the best through the first 4 weeks of the season and has a chance, I think, to potentially win the national title at the end. I've got the playoff eliminator. I've added some more teams to that. You guys know the rundown. So let's start with Georgia. I said this in the halftime video yesterday. Oh, by the way, every time Georgia loses. So first of all, every Saturday during the college football season, I live stream games on YouTube and I upload videos during halftime of games. I've been doing this for years. They're literally called halftime reports. Every time Georgia loses, I get 1 million people that run to my Georgia halftime video and comment, why'd this guy disappear now that the game is over? Where's the post-game video? I don't do post-game videos on Saturday for any game, ever. Scroll back through the channel. I do halftime video. Generally, I sometimes just 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 halftime videos every Saturday. I do halftime of the noon games, halftime of the 3:30 games, halftime of the primetime games. I think yesterday, the only halftime video I did might have been primetime, but I did my regular, here's my halftime video. And then right on cue, when the game ends, you get people over there. Oh, this guy's hiding now because Georgia lost. I don't upload post-game videos on Saturdays. That's what this video is. I do it every Sunday. It's 2 hours long. Sit down and buckle up. And just like I said in the halftime video, I don't have much else to say on top of that in terms of, this is why I pick Bama to win this game every year. And because people know I'm a Georgia fan, I get a lot of Georgia fans that show up every year when I pick Bama to win this game. And, oh, you're not a real fan. No, you don't know what you're talking about. This is the year. Well, this time it's in Athens. This is different. It's never different. The outcome, it's been different once in the last 11 times Georgia and Alabama have played. And because Georgia and Alabama don't play every year, you're talking over the last 25 years, basically, Georgia's only beat Alabama once or twice. I think they're one of their last 10. Kirby's now, 1-7 or something like that against Bama. Kirby beating Bama for the national title in 2021 is a distant memory at this point. I mean, it was a great win. I'm glad Georgia won the game, not necessarily because it was against Bama, but because it was the national title game, and those are cool to win and very hard to win. But you look at the streak that Kirby is on against Bama, and outside of the first couple of losses he had to Bama, you really can't make any excuses. It's easy to write off that first loss in the national championship game in 2017. Kirby was a second-year coach. Saban was at the height of his dominance, really, there in 2017. And so you go, well, Kirby's a second-year coach. He got beat in the biggest game on the planet by the best to ever do it, Saban. So you kind of write that off. The next year, SEC championship game. Okay, well, they got us again. 2019, we didn't play. 2020 was the COVID year. Play him in Tuscaloosa. You lose that one. You say, well, it's at Bama. So you keep coming up with all these reasons. Those first 3 games, by the way, 17 Natty game, 18 SEC championship game, 2020 regular season game, the COVID year in Tuscaloosa. All 3 of those games, by the way, Georgia had leads at halftime. Why'd they lose? Outcoached. So you go, well, there's no shame in getting outcoached by the greatest coach in history. Oh, well, so we lost those. Okay. 2021 comes around. Georgia has one of the best teams I've ever seen Georgia have. They go through the regular season 12-0. There's Bama waiting in the SEC championship game. What happens? Beat us again. Beat us pretty bad that time, actually. Georgia did get revenge that year in the national title game about a month later. The only time Kirby's ever beat Saban was in that national title game. The following year, 2022, Georgia went 15-0 and won the Natty again, but they didn't have to play Bama. They didn't play him in the regular season, and Bama wasn't good enough to make the SEC championship game that year. Georgia beat LSU in the championship game that year, Brian Kelly's first year there. More on Brian Kelly later in the video. So didn't play him in 22. And then 2023, Georgia, again undefeated in the regular season, 12-0. They show up in Atlanta to play the SEC championship game, and guess who's waiting there? Bama. And guess what happens? Bama beat them. And Georgia didn't make the playoffs that year. Last year, 2024, Georgia goes to Tuscaloosa again. What happens? 28-0 in the first half. Before you even knew what was going on, Bama beat them again. Georgia ended up making the SEC championship game, and luckily, I guess, Bama wasn't there. Because you know what happened to Bama last year? They ended up losing all those road games, Vandy, Oklahoma, Tennessee. Then they lost a neutral site game to Michigan. They didn't make in a bowl game. So anyway, so they didn't make the SEC title game. So Georgia shows up in the SEC title game last year against newcomer Texas and beats them. I mean, Georgia can beat Texas because they're not named Alabama. But lost to them in the regular season, of course. And now this year, heading into this one, it's like, well, this is the first time Kirby's played Bama in Athens. This is going to be different. It was exactly the same. Exactly the same. I mean, the players were different. The coordinators were different. In one case, the head coach was different, Kalen DeBoer. The quarterbacks were different. The location was different. The plays that were called were different. All that kind of stuff. But I mean, as far as like how the game went and how it ended, same old, same old. Georgia gets the ball. They go 3 and out. That didn't surprise me at all. They kick the ball, they punt the ball to Bama. Bama goes down the field, 12-play drive, I think. Scores a touchdown. Didn't surprise me. Georgia gets the ball back, punts again. Bama goes down the field, scores again. It's 14-0 before you know what the hell's going on. I mean, it didn't surprise me. And I put the little graphic up at the beginning of the video about desensitized. You hear that term applied in different areas, but one of the ways you hear it applied a lot is when it comes to like little kids playing video games, and you have these groups that want to like ban violent video games, and you're like, these kids are growing up playing all these violent video games, and it desensitizes them to the violence, and then they grow up and shoot up a school or whatever the crap is where they want to ban violent video games. But the point is, their claim is that playing violent video games for 15 years while you're growing up desensitizes you to violence. I'm desensitized to losing to Alabama. I know, people want me to get mad when we lose or break TVs or mad or sad or angry or upset or cry or whatever you want. And there's been times over the years where I've been all of those things, whether it was Bama losses or losses to other teams. But I'm going to be honest, when it comes to the Georgia-Bama game and Georgia loses, I'm almost like a sociopath. I have no emotion at all. Like, I'm all out of emotion when it comes to losing to Bama because I'm desensitized to it. It's happened so many times. And look, it's one thing take the Georgia-Florida rivalry, for example. Florida's in the absolute toilet and has been for a while. Not that I don't enjoy beating them, but at least, when Florida fans look back on this era where they were dominated by Georgia, they get to go, yeah, but Georgia was a good program and we were absolutely terrible during that 10-year period or whatever it is. As Georgia fans, we have to look back on this era of Georgia football and go, wow, that was the best era of Georgia football ever. And we got absolutely owned by Alabama every single time. And that's a tough pill to swallow. It's one thing if you're bad and you lose to a team over and over and over again. But when you as a program, Georgia, are at the height that you have ever been. I mean, there's been, Georgia's won natties before. They've had good seasons before. I'm not saying they were never any good. But in terms of like a prolonged period of time, Georgia has never had a 10-year run like they're on right now. 2 natties, multiple SEC championships, finishing in the top 10 every single year for 10 years in a row. All that. They've never had that. They have it now. And from now to the end of time, Bama will be able to look down on the Georgia man, me, and go, yeah, you were great during that 10-year period against everybody but Alabama. And they're right. And there's nothing we can do or say about it. The only thing that keeps me literally from jumping out of a very tall, the window of a very tall building is that Georgia and Alabama aren't rivals. The game has become a big game because both of those programs are prominent programs in college football right now. But Georgia and Bama has never been a rival. So it's not like an Ohio State-Michigan thing where the Ohio State man has to get up every single day of his life, look himself in the mirror, and know that he's owned in every imaginable way by Michigan. That is the only thing I can think of that would be worse than what the Georgia fan has to deal with the Alabama situation that they're in. There's just seemingly nothing Kirby can do to get over the Alabama hump. You thought maybe when Saban left, he could turn the corner. Well, now he's 0-2 against Kalen DeBoer. You thought maybe, you finally get to play him at home. Maybe you'll win that one. Well, nope, you lose again. And the thing is, Kirby's been through multiple defensive coordinators and lost to Bama, multiple offensive coordinators and lost to Bama, multiple quarterbacks that have lost to Bama, all-time great defenses that have lost to Bama, really good offenses that have lost to Bama. The only constant is Kirby. And I love Kirby. I think he's one of the best coaches in football. I don't think there's any question about it. He's one of the best coaches in football. I think you sound kind of silly if you try to make any argument other than that he's one of the best coaches in football. But he's the only constant. He's the through line from 2016 to now, and he's 1-7 against Bama. Everything else has changed around him. It's a Kirby issue. Like, that's just what it is. No coach is perfect. Saban wasn't perfect. Bear Bryant wasn't perfect. Urban Meyer wasn't perfect. Steve Spurrier, Bobby Bowden, whatever the all-time great. None of them were perfect. Kirby's not perfect either. And for whatever reason, or maybe there is no reason, he's property of Alabama. They absolutely own him, mind, body, and soul. It really doesn't matter who's the better team. Georgia has lost to Bama when they've been worse than Bama. They've lost to Bama when they've been better than Bama. Georgia was definitely better than Bama in 2021. Lost to them in the SEC championship game. Already told you in 2017, 2018, and 2020, 3 losses to Bama. Georgia was ahead at halftime all 3 times. I mean, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's been close losses. There's been overtime losses. There's been blowout losses. There's been come from behind wins for Bama over Georgia. There's been every kind of loss imaginable for Georgia against Bama. And I joked all this week leading up to the game because I did pick Bama to win. I picked Bama to win in my preseason prediction videos when I did the Georgia and Bama schedule predictions. And I picked them to win this week in a prediction video that I uploaded on Tuesday, I think it was. I picked them to win. And I'll keep picking them to win because they find new ways to beat Georgia, and Georgia finds new ways to lose to them every year. Every single year. The game yesterday, I mean, it ended up being a 3-point game, and that's great. There was never 1 second in that game where I thought Georgia was going to win. Not one. Never. I picked Bama to win. And from the beginning of the game to the end, I never for 1 second thought Georgia was going to win the game. Definitely didn't think they were going to win when they fell behind 14-0. I didn't think they were going to win when they got it up to whatever it was, 24-21. It did end up being a 1-score game. Held Bama scoreless in the second half. That's great. That's amazing. But, football is 2 halves. So what about the first half? Another slow start, which is now carried on a couple of years. It ended up being a 3-point game. And here's the thing, because I've been on Twitter. I've seen other people's videos. People are saying, well, if they would have done this, they would have won. Or if they would have done that, they would have won. Or if this wouldn't happen, Alabama would have lost. And they're pointing to these individual things. Some of that is true, but the reality is in a 1-score game, any game in history that ends in 1 possession or less, 1-score game, there's a dozen things you can point to in every game ever played and go, well, if that happened instead of that, or if this happened instead of this, it doesn't matter. You want to talk about the 4th down call down at the goal line? Yeah, Kirby should have kicked the field goal. Kirby's mind is becoming melted by analytics like a lot of the other coaches in college football. He's not as bad as some others. Brian Kelly's one of the worst. Analytics says go for it here. Well, common fucking sense and in Kirby's case, 50 years of being on this planet should tell you, kick the field goal there. Tie the game at the start of the 4th quarter. You're basically starting over, fresh slate, 0-0, 1 quarter to play at home. If you just kick the field goal there. You got an All-American field goal kicker, and you're on the fucking 5-yard line or whatever it is. Kick the field goal, tie it up. This was at the start of the 4th quarter. Bama had not scored at all during the 3rd quarter, and guess what? Nobody scored the whole rest of the game. The 4th quarter, scoreless 4th quarter. Georgia scored the 3rd quarter to make it 24 to whatever it was, 21. To make it 24-21. Then they get down there on the 5-yard line, and you have the 4th down thing where they go for it. I didn't like the play call. Oh, fire Bobo, fire Bobo. Todd Monken was 1-2 against Bama. It doesn't matter. Yeah, okay, fire Bobo. Bring somebody else in. They're still going to lose this game. It's not a Bobo. We don't lose to Bama because of Bobo. Todd Monken was 1-2 against Bama, wasn't he? Lost in 2020. lost to them once in 2021, beat them once in 2021. That's 2-1. No, 1-2. Yeah, so he was 1-2. Lost in 2020, lost in the SEC championship game in 21, beat him in the Natty in 21. He was 1-2. Monken was. Todd Monken, as offensive coordinator. We were 1-2 against Bama with him there. 2022, when we went 15-0, we didn't play Bama. So yeah, Todd Monken's not coming back. So fire Bobo if you want to. I don't think Bobo's the greatest coordinator ever, but I mean, firing Bobo is not going to solve your Alabama problem. You've had how many different offensive coordinators? You're 1-7 or 1-8, whatever it is now. Kirby is against Bama. So yeah, I think they should have kicked the field goal. That's not Bobo's decision. That's Kirby's decision. That's on Kirby. I think Kirby is the reason for this loss. I don't know if it's something he's doing with preparation for the Alabama game. I don't know if it's pressure he puts on himself for the Alabama game, pressure he puts on the players for the Alabama game, pressure he puts on his coaches. There's something about the Alabama game. It's just obvious. It's just obvious. So we have fire Bobo if you want. He didn't make the decision to go for it on 4th and 1, and he didn't even make the decision to have Cash Jones in the game. If you heard Kirby's post-game press conference, it was a sequence of plays, or they had some long, drawn-out, boring fucking explanation. But I know a lot of you just want Bobo gone because you've hated him for 20 years, and that's fine. What about Glenn Schumann? What are we going to do with him? What about Searles, the offensive line? Yeah, I mean, would you just fire everybody because you can't beat Bama? It doesn't matter. Fire Bobo. You can bring in whoever you want. You're still not going to beat Bama. We play Bama next year in Tuscaloosa. Anybody picking Georgia to win? I don't care what the rosters look like. It doesn't matter. Oh, what if you get something in the transfer portal, or what if Bama has a lot of players leave early? Who doesn't matter. I'm telling you now. Bama's beating Georgia next year in Tuscaloosa. I'm picking it now. This offseason, when I do prediction videos, I'll pick Bama. Next year, the week leading up to the game, I'll pick Bama. I'm picking Bama. Bama will win next year in Tuscaloosa. Doesn't matter who the coordinators or the players or anything else. None of that matters. None of that matters. So, yeah, that 4th down call I thought was boneheaded. The decision to go for it there was boneheaded. The worst thing I saw that I can blame on Mike Bobo is the last time Georgia had the ball at midfield or whatever it was, or maybe it wasn't midfield. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The game is basically on the line. It's a 3rd and 9, and they throw a swing pass to Cash Jones 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and he's tackled for a 4-yard loss. That terrible fucking call. That was a do or die time. You got to get aggressive and make a throw there. I don't know if. Well, I say it's on Bobo. I'm sure there was wide receivers running routes down the field, so I don't know. Maybe it was on Gunner. I don't know. But you find new ways to lose this game every year, Georgia, when you play Bama, and you did it again on Saturday. Georgia ran for 227 yards. If you would have told me yesterday before the game started Georgia's going to run for 227 yards, I would have said, what? Well, shit, we'll probably win. We had over 100 yards more rushing than Bama. Bama couldn't run the ball at all. Georgia ran it down their throat, and Bama couldn't stop it. Wasn't enough. He still lost the game. Georgia had 230 yards rushing. Bama had like 120. And Bama still won the time of possession by 10 minutes. How is that? How is that possible? How's that even possible? Bama had the ball for 35 minutes. Georgia had it for 25. And then you look at the rushing stats, 222 or 225, whatever Georgia had to about 120. And you go, how's that possible? Nate Frazier with another fumble. Talon Taylor with a drop wide open pass. Now, Bama had one too, so maybe that crosses each other out. But in Georgia's case, it's more the same from last year. And guess what number Talon Taylor is? Number 11. They ought to burn that jersey. And no one at Georgia should ever be allowed to wear the number 11 again. Arian Smith dropped 1 million catches last year wearing number 11. He leaves. In comes Talon Taylor. Oh, all-world freshman wide receiver. This guy's going to be amazing. Oh, yeah, we'll give him number 11. Wide open. I mean, would have walked into the end zone. Hit him right in the hands, and he dropped it. I mean, same thing happened last year in Tuscaloosa. There was an Arian Smith, I believe, dropped one in Tuscaloosa last year. The drop passes, Nate Frazier fumbling the ball. These are the same problems we had last year. But you run for 225 yards against Bama. Lose the game, and you lose the time of possession by 10 minutes. There's new ways to lose. So the Georgia fans that keep telling me I'm a fake fan or we're not a real fan, you keep picking Georgia to go 100-0 every year, I guess. maybe eventually you'll be right. If we expand the playoffs enough to where we get to 100 games and you live to be a million years old, maybe you'll get to see Georgia go 1,000,000 one year. But it'll have to be a year where they don't play Bama. I can tell you that. Georgia's got to count on somebody else knocking Bama out, whatever that is, whether it's from the SEC championship game or the playoffs. Because if Georgia runs into that thing, it's an automatic L. But it's an automatic L. That's just what it is. What does this mean for Georgia going forward for the rest of the year? Same thing it meant when Alabama lost to Florida State. It's one loss. You can only lose two. That's it. If you're a high-level team with plans on making the playoffs, you can't lose more than 2 games. That's it. There's not an SEC team. I don't believe there's an SEC team that goes 10-2 and gets left out. There may be some 9-3s that get left out, though, like last year. Now, there may be some 9-3s that get in. But just like I said in the offseason, if you as a fan have a goal to see your team in the playoffs, then 10-2 is what you need to shoot for. Is it possible somebody gets in at 9-3? Yeah, it's possible, but it's going to be more teams left out at 9-3 than get in at 9-3. So your goal needs to be 10-2. So, Georgia's now used up basically one of your mulligans there. Alabama used theirs up in week 1. Tennessee used one of theirs up against Georgia. I mean, you look at these one-loss teams right now, they all can say, well, there's, maybe we can still make the playoffs, but they're not all going to make it. Some of these teams are going to lose 2 and 3 more games. It could be Georgia. I also predicted Georgia to lose to Auburn in the preseason. The good news there, Auburn appears to be inept again offensively. They're absolutely horrible. We'll talk more about Auburn in a minute. But I think Georgia's got a better chance of winning the Auburn game than I predicted in the offseason. They play Kentucky this week. They should handle Kentucky. It's a home game, thank God. They don't have to go to Kentucky and beat them 13-12 or whatever like they did last year to get them at home. I think then they play Auburn. And then as far as the tough games, the Ole Miss looks like is a problem. Ole Miss might be the best team in the SEC. I'm not kidding either. I'm not kidding. Last year, I never thought they were the best team in the SEC. I thought they could potentially get into the playoffs with an at-large, but not once during the year last year did I go, Ole Miss might be the best team. Even when they beat Georgia in Oxford, I never thought they were the best team. I think Ole Miss could be the best team in the SEC right now. I'm not joking. That's going to be a problem for Georgia. That game's in Athens. That's good. They, of course, play Texas in Athens. We'll see. Texas has not been all that impressive so far early in the season. They've got tough games coming up, so we'll see how they look. Those 2 games are a long way away. The Auburn game, Mississippi State comes to Athens. That's potentially dangerous for Georgia because they can sling the ball all over the place, and Georgia's secondary doesn't exist, as witnessed yesterday against Bama. Wide open wide receivers in the secondary again yesterday. No pressure on Ty Simpson at all. No sacks on Ty Simpson. Is just absolutely no pass rush at all from the front 4. 0. It's alarmingly bad. It's alarmingly bad, especially when you consider the fact that you don't have an elite secondary. So if Georgia blitzes, it's a huge risk because you're leaving those secondary people one-on-one, and they're not very good. So it's a problem. So Mississippi State could be a problem. That's at Starkville, I believe. That could be a problem. Ole Miss could be a problem in Athens. Texas, we'll see. Florida will likely be a carcass of a dead body by the time that game comes around. So I don't expect much from them. So I don't know. Is Georgia going to lose 2 more games? They could. Could Bama lose 2 more? Bama could still lose 2 more games. Bama's got to play, LSU, Oklahoma, Vandy, Missouri. These are good teams. There is no dominant team. Congrats to Alabama. Y'all were the better team again yesterday. This wasn't a fluke win. There wasn't 1 second where Georgia looked better or I thought they were going to win. Congratulations. But if as a Bama fan, you somehow think, well, that's it. Now, we're going to win the rest of our games. Everything else is easy. You might, but I don't think there's a dominant team in the SEC. Oklahoma's got a great defense, but they've got no running game, and John Mateer is hurt. Ole Miss might be the bit. Texas A&M is undefeated. They're not a dominant team. They could win the SEC, though, but they're not dominant. There's not a dominant team. There's not. It's going to be a mess. The SEC is going to be a mess. Tennessee survived yesterday. We'll get to a lot of those games. But anyway, Georgia, every time you play Alabama, your season's over. Bud, you ought to know that by now. We ought to just start forfeiting this game. That way we don't have to risk players getting hurt for no reason. We'll just automatically assign Alabama, I don't know, like a 9 or a 10-point win every time we have to play. We don't even have to make the trip, save money on travel, the whole deal. Anyway, Georgia, your season is over. Southern Cal, season over. Lost to Illinois. Same Illinois that got beat by 1 million, by the way, by Indiana the week before. This might be today's theme of this video. You know the song, different verse, same as the first? Georgia loses to Bama. Yeah, different verse, same as the first. I mean, it's just automatic, right? You don't even have to think about it. Lincoln Riley doesn't have a defense. Duh. Like, is anybody surprised? You shouldn't be surprised that Bama beat Georgia. They always do. You shouldn't be surprised that Lincoln Riley doesn't have a defense. Guy's been a head coach for 9 years at 2 different blue blood programs and is yet to field an even average defense. And it showed itself again yesterday on the road at Illinois. They did have a lead late, but guess what? They scored to take the lead late. Kicked off to Illinois with, hold on, because I wrote this down. Yes, I still have my doll, so don't even, makes it hard. Now I got to hold 3 things because I got my copious notes. So, but trust me, I am a professional. A lot of y'all couldn't do this, but I can. I can hold 3 things at once. I wrote this down because it was of such an alarming nature. 34-32, Southern Cal beats Illinois. Last second field goal. Listen to this. Southern Cal scores to take the lead, right? But guess what? There was a minute 55 to go. If that's all I told you, you'd already know what happened because it's a Lincoln Riley defense. Minute 55 to go. Illinois goes 8 plays, 51 yards, and kicks a game-winning field goal to beat Southern Cal. You don't have to do any research on Southern Cal. There's people hyping up their quarterback now. Yeah, we know they're going to have a great quarterback and a couple of NFL wide receivers, and they're going to score points. And their defense is not going to be worth a shit. Why do they always leave that out? These people that hype Southern Cal up every offseason. Oh, they revamped their front four. They get new defense coordinator second year. None of that matters. Just like Georgia changing coordinators don't matter against Bama. It don't matter what coordinator changes happen for Lincoln Riley. He's never going to have a good defense, ever. Showed up again yesterday. They gave up 31 points last week at home to Michigan State. They won 40-something to 45-31 or whatever it was. But they gave up 31 points last week to Michigan State. They go on the road this week to Illinois and lose. Take the lead with a minute 55 to go. Kick it off. Illinois goes right down the field. 51 yards, 8 plays. 8 plays, 51 yards, game-winning field goal. I mean, Illinois had 330 yards passing, over 500 yards of total offense. Illinois is a good team. They're not great. 500 yards of offense you gave up. It's a different verse, same as the first. Oh, I'm Henry VIII, I am. Whatever that song is, too. I don't know. Different verse, same as the first. Lincoln Riley and Southern Cal got no defense for the 9th year in a row. And it's why I don't take Lincoln Riley seriously as a head coach or Southern Cal seriously as a football program as long as they employ Lincoln Riley. It's never going to change. It's never going to change. Somebody shows you who they are, believe them. I believe you, Lincoln Riley. You don't give a fuck about defense, and you lost again because of your defense, this time to Illinois. Congratulations. Your season is over. Mississippi State. This was a great game. Great game. I thought this would be a great game, too. And I'm going to give Tennessee some credit, too, here. We don't usually talk a lot about the winners, but I'm going to give Tennessee some credit after I talk about Mississippi State. But they lost at home, a heartbreaking loss for Mississippi State. They had a big win a couple of weeks ago against Arizona State, and they had chances to win this one. You already know this game went to overtime. The double overtime, didn't it? Was it overtime or double overtime? There were so many overtime games. Some went to double overtime and getting them confused. I think this was just one overtime. 41-34, Mississippi State loses to Tennessee. Tennessee was down 24-20 in the fourth quarter. The thing gets tied up, goes to overtime. They win 41-34. G5 Joey 24 of 40, 335 yards. Did throw 2 interceptions though, which is what kept Mississippi State in the game. Blake Shapen 18 of 29, 180 yards. He also threw an interception. And Mississippi State outrushed Tennessee, which surprised me a little bit. But Mississippi State did outrush Tennessee. Valiant effort for Mississippi State. One of the most improved teams in the country, I think, Mississippi State. They were terrible last year. Were they 2-10? Didn't win a single SEC game. I don't think. They're absolutely horrible. They've managed to turn it around there. They're not an easy out. They've got a good offense. Shapen's a good quarterback. Jeff Levy's a good coach. They got Petrino running the offense there, don't they? Oh, no, that's at Arkansas. Speaking of Arkansas, didn't take their helmet down, but we will talk about that. Anyway, Mississippi State headed in the right direction, a decent team. But Tennessee found a way to win on the road. And this is where I want to congratulate Tennessee. This is bucking the trend for this video. A lot of this video is we've seen this before. This always happens. Lincoln Riley defense, Georgia losing to Bama. Well, Josh Heupel can't win on the road. And every single year he's been in Tennessee, he has a road loss where he was a significant favorite. And a lot of people thought this might have been that game. Tennessee was about an 8.5 point favorite, so they ended up not covering the spread. Of course, Heupel didn't care about that, and Tennessee fans shouldn't care about that either unless they bet on the game. What matters here is that Tennessee went on the road where they have struggled for years under Josh Heupel. They found themselves in a close game at the end, and instead of kind of finding a way to lose, which is what has happened with Tennessee and Josh Heupel on the road in a lot of games that went just like this, they found a way to win in overtime. I do think that's a big deal. Maybe Tennessee and Josh Heupel are sort of getting over that hump. That's what's kept them out of the SEC championship game. A couple of times in the last few years is head-scratching road losses. One at Florida a couple of years ago, one at Arkansas last year. We just go, how the hell did they lose that? They've lost at Georgia, but Georgia's been good teams. That wasn't necessarily a bad loss, but so they've had a bad loss on the road every year under Heupel. And yesterday they had an opportunity to do it again, a bad loss again on the road, and instead they found a way to win it. So I think we got to give Tennessee some credit. For that. But Cowbell, man, Sven, Germany, man, sorry, bud. Mississippi State tried real hard. I was real proud of them too. But their season is over. Auburn's season is over. And so, too, I'm afraid, might be the Hugh Freeze experiment as head coach at Auburn. Auburn's got to dump him. They got to go. They got to get rid of him and go a different direction. The only upside in hiring Hugh Freeze is you're hoping for offense. And then you go, let's get the offense going and then hire the right pieces staff-wise, defensively, up the recruiting over there. And let somebody else handle the defense, but Hugh Freeze is an offensive guy. Well, 3 years in, Auburn's offense has been the worst in the SEC over that 3-year period. Maybe not the worst every single year, but over that 3-year period, averaged out, Auburn's had the worst offense in the SEC the last 3 years, and it's continuing this season. And what makes it particularly funny to me, but got to be aggravating for Auburn fans, is that this season in particular, Hugh Freeze went into the portal and hand-picked a quarterback that he was convinced could run his offense at a high level. Because I've been telling y'all this about Hugh Freeze since the minute Auburn hired him. 2 things. I don't like Hugh Freeze as a person. That's number 1. Number 2, he is a good offensive mind, but he has to have a quarterback that can run his system at a high level. He did not have that his first 2 years with the Robbie Ashford and whatever else they were rotating in and out. This year, he goes into the portal and handpicks Jackson fucking Arnold. I didn't think it would work, but it's Hugh Freeze. If he says that's the guy, we'll see. Well, we've seen, and he ain't the guy. He's terrible. He's not even he's basically another Robbie Ashford. He's athletic. He makes a lot of people miss, which is a good thing because Auburn might have the worst offensive line in the SEC too. Their offensive line is horrendous, y'all. It is horrible. Oklahoma's got a great front 7, but they sacked him 10 times last week. If you get sacked 10 times, some of that is on the quarterback. Yes, so I'm not taking anything away from Oklahoma's front 4 and front 7. It's amazing, maybe the best in the SEC. But 10 sacks, at some point, it becomes the quarterback's fault. You would think if you're Jackson Arnold, after you got sacked the 7th time or the 8th time, you'd go, you know what? Let me maybe get rid of this ball a little quicker. Not Jackson Arnold. Just stands back there, deer in headlights, and takes sack after sack after sack. He got sacked 5 or 6 times. Again, yesterday, I don't remember if I wrote the exact number down. I literally wrote down Hugh Freeze is dead and Jackson Arnold is the pallbearer. Yeah, Hugh Freeze is dead as a head coach at Auburn. Dead man walking. And Jackson Arnold is carrying the casket. He's absolutely terrible, and that was Hugh Freeze's handpicked savior. Um, 18 of 33, Jackson Arnold. 18 of 33 for 125 yards. And to make matters worse, Auburn had 52 yards rushing. And yeah, Jackson Arnold was sacked 5 times. That's 15 sacks in the last 2 games. The Baylor game, I knew it. Week 1, when they played at Baylor, it was masked a little bit because they won the game. Jackson Arnold was running for his life the entire Baylor game. And he ended up with 100 yards rushing or whatever it was that game. People, oh, he had a great game. No, he didn't. They couldn't pass the ball at all. And their offensive line was terrible against Baylor in week 1. I've been pointing that out since week 1. And all Auburn has done since then is lose games because of that terrible offensive line and because Jackson Arnold can't throw the ball. And they lost yesterday again, this time to Texas A&M, 16-10. So, hey, another close loss. Hey, that's great. You know what close losses mean? You're getting out-coached. That's what that means. Oh, we barely lost to Oklahoma. Then we turn around and barely lost to Texas A&M. Okay, so you got out-coached both times? Okay, great. And your quarterback's the worst in the SEC. The guy can't throw passes. He's horrible. He's not a quarterback. He's an athlete. And he is athletic. But my God, Auburn is horrible. Absolutely terrible. I can't tell the difference at this point between them and Florida. I'm dead serious. Pretty good defenses, decent defenses, right? Keeping them in these games. Keeping these games a one-possession deal here, but the offenses can do absolutely nothing. Auburn and Florida. You see how I find a way to shit on Florida even in their bye week? Words out, though. They can't afford to fire Billy Napier. I don't know what that's about. They better start digging through the couch cushion for quarters or something. I don't know. And Auburn, you might need to start Googling Hugh Freeze buyout because it's not working, and it's about to get a lot worse for you. But it's about to get a lot worse for Auburn when you look at the schedule. They are not good. They lost again, back-to-back losses for Auburn. Their season is over for real. I never really think their season started in terms of, like, they were never making the playoffs or the SEC or anything like that. They're a bad team. They're a bad team, and it's Hugh Freeze's fault. So he's got to go. And he's a scumbag. Fuck Hugh Freeze. Yeah. Fuck Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze is an anal baby. Hugh Freeze was conceived through anal sex, is what I heard. I don't know. I'm not a biologist or whatever. But that's what I heard. What else? LSU. This is another one. Hey, Brian Kelly. Hold another press conference where you yell at the reporters and tell them to stop asking about the offense because nothing's wrong with the offense. Are you sure, bud? Are you sure? Are LSU fans still buying that lie that Nussmeier was hurt through the first couple of games of the season? That's why he wasn't any good. Are LSU fans still buying that lie? I told you that wasn't true. Nussmeier was never hurt. Something is wrong with the offense. It's not clicking. It's not working. It's not in rhythm. It's not in sync. Now Durham goes down yesterday, the running back, and he's really their only bright spot that they've had. I like him. He was good last year. He had his moments this season, too. He got hurt yesterday, and that was it. LSU couldn't do shit. Nussmeier, not any good. Throwing more interceptions yesterday. It's the same problem Nussmeier had last year, was the interceptions. They popped up again yesterday. LSU defense, top 10 in the country. Offense, massive, massive issues. And this is a lot bigger of a problem than, oh, well, we lost on the road to Ole Miss. This is a problem that you're not done seeing this season if you're LSU, because they have shown zero ability through the first 5 weeks of the season to move the ball offensively at all against any of the FBS opponents they've played. They put up points against an elementary school last week, but against Clemson, against Florida, and now against Ole Miss yesterday. Absolutely nothing offensively. Just absolutely nothing. They lost 24-19. Trinidad and Tobago, that new quarterback for Ole Miss, 400 total yards again. If Trinidad and Tobago is not on your Heisman list, you need to throw your Heisman list away. This guy took over for Austin Simmons a few weeks ago, and all he's done since then is complete 70 or 80% of his passes. He's got 13, 14 touchdowns in the last 2.5 weeks. The runs all over the place. He might be the best quarterback in football. I'm not going to spend 10 minutes talking about him like I did last week, but the fact that Lane Kiffin found this guy at Ferris State and in one offseason has him running that offense at that high of a level is amazing. And then compare that to what you see here. at Auburn. And you will understand why Lane Kiffin is such a good coach and Hugh Freeze is a bag of shit with legs. Because that's what he is. But Chambliss, 400 total yards again yesterday. LSU had 59 yards rushing against Ole Miss. Absolutely embarrassing. Nussmeier only 197 yards, an interception like I mentioned. Ole Miss ran the ball for 170 yards. 170 yards on LSU, who does have a good defense. But look, we see this every year in college football, teams that have good defenses but no offense. Georgia's had years like this, where the defense is national title caliber, but the offense just lags way too far behind. Eventually, you have one of those games where the defense doesn't hold up and the offense doesn't have that extra gear to make it up. That's the case with LSU, and their schedule is brutal. They're not done losing. I got the playoff eliminator coming up. LSU that's their first loss. I don't think LSU's making the playoffs. When you look at their schedule and you look at their offense through the first 5 weeks, now Durham is hurt, who's been their best offensive player. I don't think they make the playoffs. We'll get more on that when I get to the playoff eliminator, but LSU is in a bad way, as it turns out. Penn State, done with you. Done with James Franklin. Done with Dewey. They had an opportunity yesterday to prove 99% of the college football population wrong, and instead they proved them right. Every single one of them. No offense again for what feels like the 100th year in a row. Another loss to another top 10 team, seems like the 100th time in a row. Another big home game where they can't get first downs. It's just the same thing. I don't know what this means. It's hard to extrapolate this for Penn State going forward because, I mean, they do have some tough games. They play. Well, here's their schedule: at UCLA, home against Northwestern. They should win both of those. But then they play at Iowa. Maybe they win that game 13-9 or something. Maybe. At Ohio State, lost. They're losing that. It's automatic. Then Indiana comes to Happy Valley. Indiana will score on you. They will score on you. Can you score on them? Not if they're ranked in the top 10, you can't. At Michigan State, home against Nebraska, and at Rutgers. I know the joke is they go 10-2, lose to the only two good teams they play, and then they make the playoffs at 10-2. I don't know if they're going 10-2. Drew Aller doesn't look any better. In fact, you could make the argument he looks worse than he did 2 years ago. Every year they revamp the wide receiver room through the portal. Every year they've got no wide receivers that anybody's worried about. Every year they've got a good defense and 2 NFL running backs, and it doesn't matter. They still go out and can't get first downs or score points against any top 10 team they play. And it happened again yesterday at home, at night, in a whiteout against Oregon. They did not score a touchdown in this game until the fourth quarter, Penn State. One field goal I think they had up to that point. And they end up losing, of course, because that's just what they do. They lose 30-24, but it went to 2 overtimes. You know how hard it is to only score 24 points in 2 overtimes? That's damn near impossible to do. But they did it. Heading into this weekend, Penn State had the worst strength of schedule in the country. They were ranked 138 out of 138, or however many teams there are. They had played 3 absolute nobodies. Now, sometimes that works for teams. Sometimes it doesn't. It worked for Ohio State last year. Ohio State played 3 nobodies in the non-con, went on to win the Natty. Michigan, same thing the year before. They played 3 nobodies in the non-con, went on to win the Natty. You watched Penn State play those 3 nobodies. The offense wasn't great. Drew Aller wasn't great. The wide receivers wasn't great. Similar kind of to the start of Georgia's season against Marshall and Austin Peay. And then Georgia had that game at Tennessee, and everybody had the same question, right? Can they throw the ball? Well, it turns out they did, and they won that game. The following this past week, 2 weeks, Penn State hosts Oregon. Can they throw the ball? No, they can't. Drew Aller's terrible. Again, 14 of 25 for 137 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. But again, no touchdowns at all to the fourth quarter. They did score 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to tie it up and send it to overtime. Prior to the fourth quarter, at home, at night, in a whiteout, they couldn't score a touchdown. Not one. Not one. No wide receiver for Penn State had more than 48 yards receiving. They only ran the ball for 139 yards. Now, running the ball for 139 total yards isn't terrible in and of itself. But when you say, well, we're talking about Penn State here, because that's all they have. Last year when they lost to Oregon, they ran for almost 300 yards. They still lost. Yesterday, only 137 on the ground, 120 something through the air. No touchdowns to the fourth quarter. Different verse, same as the first. Georgia can't beat Bama. What was the other one? Georgia can't beat Bama. Lincoln Riley ain't got no defense. Penn State ain't got no offense. It can't beat top 10 teams. The trends continue. Penn State, your season is over for the purposes of this video, and they might actually be over for the entire season. At Iowa, at Ohio State, and then home against Indiana in 3 consecutive weeks. My guess is you lose 2 out of those 3, and there is no planet where a 9-3 Penn State team with the non-con schedule they had should be anywhere near a 12-team playoff. You could be in some serious trouble. Washington, they hung around. Not enough. Ohio State, in the end, too much offense for Washington, and Ohio State's defense played lights out yet again. Ohio State is probably the best team in the country again. I'm not proclaiming them national champions. It's only week 5. We're still in September. I get all that. But they look like the best team right now, probably. Ohio State. They got to win at home over Texas. Now they go on the road. Julian Saban's first road start. And you're thinking, Washington's pretty good this year. They're undefeated. Dynamic offense. All of that's true. Well, didn't seem to matter yesterday. 24-6, Washington loses to Ohio State. Washington only had 60 rush yards. Ohio State had 150. Julian Saban, another great game, 22 of 28, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. The Washington quarterback, Damon Williams, 18 of 22, 173 yards. So completed a lot of passes at or near the line of scrimmage. No explosive plays for Washington, only managed 6 points, and they lose at home to Ohio State. Not really funny to laugh at Washington because there aren't really all that many Washington fans, and it's not like anybody thought Washington was winning a natty or making the playoffs or making the Big Ten title game or whatever. But a lot of people, myself included, did think they would be a way better team this year than they were last year, and I still think that. It's one loss to Ohio State, who is one of, if not the best teams in the country. I still think Washington has a lot more wins headed their way this season, and a massive step forward over what we saw from them last year, which was really an anomaly. Remember, they made the playoffs 2 years ago, Washington did, and then they lost their entire coaching staff. Kalen DeBoer was their coach. They lost their entire coaching staff when he took the Bama job, and 21 of their 22 starters from that playoff team left, either to the NFL, graduation, or portal. On top of that, they had to make the transition to the Big Ten last year. So they had all new coaching staff, all new starters, and they were transitioning to the Big Ten last year. So they had a rough year. But this year, they are a better team, but not better enough to compete with or beat Ohio State, not even at home. Washington, your season is over. TCU. I don't know who the best team in the Big 12 is. I have no idea. Some people think it's Texas Tech. It might be. They got a win over Utah. Some people think it's Iowa State. It might be. They're 5-0. Some people thought it was TCU. Well, they lost to Arizona State. That's what we're fixing to get ready to talk about that now. Some people think it's Arizona State. Well, they lost to Mississippi State. Well, that's not a conference loss, though, which is important when it comes to the Big 12. Utah only has the one loss, and it's to Texas Tech. Maybe they're the best or the second best. You try to figure out the 2 teams that are going to make the Big 12 title game, it's almost impossible. BYU ended up winning last night. They fell behind early on the road at Colorado, but they come back and won, so they're still undefeated. So you got TCU, Texas Tech, Arizona State, Iowa State, Utah. There's 5, 6, 7 teams. Any 2 of them could wind up in the Big 12 title game. But this was a huge win for Arizona State over TCU. TCU, your season is over for the purposes of this video, although it's not really over. They're one of the teams that could still make the Big 12 title game, I think. But anyway, another unbelievable game here. This was a Friday night game. Save the 2 Friday night games for last. TCU on the road at Arizona State. And then I forget what the other Friday night game was that we all watched, but I'll talk about it in a second, Bo. Pretty sure. You okay? You're still watching, aren't you? Florida State, man. All right, it's coming up, buddy. It's coming up, bud. Okay, Arizona State and TCU. TCU jumped out to a 17-0 lead in this one on the road at Arizona State. And I'm thinking, Arizona State done fell off. They lost Scatterboo, and now they can't win none of these games. Well, they came all the way back, tied that thing up, and then kicked a game-winning field goal in the last minute of the game and beat TCU 27 to 24. They were down 17-0, ended up winning 27 to 24. 3 turnovers for TCU, 1 for Arizona State. Ended up being a significant difference in the game. Leavitt had a good game, 291 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he ran for 62 yards and a touchdown. So that's what was missing in that Mississippi State game. So welcome to 2025, Sam Leavitt. Good to see you back there. TCU, 12 yards rushing. Arizona State had the best run defense in the Big 12 last year, and they returned 11 of 12 starters from that side of the ball. So they are legit when it comes to stopping the run. And that was a must-win game for Arizona State because of that loss, because of their non-con loss at Mississippi State. There's probably only one Big 12 team going to get in the playoffs anyway. But because of that non-con loss, there's no way Arizona State will get in unless they win the Big 12 because they've got a non-con loss. That's my opinion anyway. So that was a big win for Arizona State to keep their hopes alive. You don't want to fall behind in the Big 12 race early in the season, so they get a big win at home over TCU, but a lot of tough games, not just for Arizona State and TCU remaining, but everybody. It's going to be the Big 12 is the most entertaining league to watch on TV. Is it the best football? No. Is it the best players? No. Is it going to be top 10 matchups every week? No. But if you're one of these people that complains about blowouts or whatever, watch the Big 12. Every single game in the Big 12 could theoretically come down to a field goal. It is extremely difficult to tell the Big 12 teams apart in terms of scores of, there's hardly any outcome that will surprise you. Just off the top of your head, think about some matchups and who do you think would win? Iowa State and Arizona State, TCU and Texas Tech, Utah and Iowa State. I have no idea who would win any of those games. All of those games would be close. It's going to be an extremely entertaining season in the Big 12, just like it was last year. And when we get to November, every single Saturday, there's going to be 2 or 3 games in the Big 12 that are massive. In terms of the playoffs and who gets to the Big 12 title game. The Big 12 is a great TV league, I think. Great to watch. Great. It's exciting and it's entertaining. You know what else is entertaining? Watching Florida State lose on a fucking weekday. You lost during the week, man. You lost on high school day, Friday night. Went all the way up to Charlottesville and got your ass beat by Virginia. I'm glad Florida State lost for one reason and one reason only. We should get a week or so break from the Florida State fans who have done nothing but run around the internet for the last 3 weeks and call into every internet radio show, including mine, demanding that people bow down and declare Florida State the king of the galaxy and the best team in the planet. So if nothing else, Florida State losing this game should give us all about a week off from that dumbassery that the Florida State man has been running around the internet spewing over the last few weeks. But this was a wild fucking game here. A wild game. 46 to 38. Virginia wins. The FSU defense, bad. Real bad. Went to double overtime. Virginia, 229 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. 3 interceptions, didn't matter, still won the game. Turnovers, 3 each in this game. What does this mean? Not much. It doesn't mean much. It's an embarrassing loss because every loss is embarrassing, I guess. But does this mean Florida State is somehow now a terrible team? I don't think so. I don't think so. There were a lot of red flashing lights surrounding this game and Florida State heading into it on Friday. For one, it was on a Friday. I've been watching college football a long time, been gambling on college football a long time. Ranked teams that have to go on the road during the week, flashing red light. You see a lot of weird things happen to ranked teams when they have to play on the road to an unranked team on a Friday night. That's number one. Number two, they're coming off a short week. Number three, it was their first road game of the year, which meant it was Tommy Castellano's first road game at Florida State. Number four, they play Miami next week. So whoever you play the week before your biggest game of the year is a classic trap game, your typical look-ahead spot. So there was a lot of red flashing lights going off about this game as far as Florida State and the upset potential that Virginia had in this game. And if you watch the game, now you know why. Virginia gets the win, 46 to 38. Now, when I'm recording this video, the AP poll has not come out, but the coaches poll came out. And you know my feeling on any poll or ranking. They don't matter. The only ranking that matters is the playoff ranking, and that doesn't even start for another month. But people lately been getting bent out of shape, feelings hurt about where teams are ranked, the coaches in the AP. Florida State is all over Twitter already, their fans, demanding that they be ranked ahead of Alabama still because they beat Alabama and they have the same record. We got the same record as Bama, and we beat them head to head. We better be ranked ahead of Bama. We better be ranked ahead of Bama. This is ridiculous. ESPN bias. Like ESPN puts out the coaches poll. Fucking retards. Anyway, to the Florida State fans that feel that way, and there are quite a few of you. I want to read off some things for you here. Vandy beat South Carolina. South Carolina beat Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech beat NC State. NC State beat Virginia. Virginia beat you and has the same record as you. Should Virginia be ranked ahead of Florida State? I'll ask the Florida State man. You're demanding that Florida State be ranked ahead of Bama because you beat Bama, and you and Bama have the same record. Virginia beat you, and you and Virginia have the same record. Should Virginia be ranked ahead of you? If Virginia should be ranked ahead of you, then should NC State be ranked ahead of Virginia because they beat Virginia? Virginia Tech, who's basically winless and fired their coach, beat NC State. Should Virginia Tech be ranked ahead of Florida State? What about Vandy? Vandy's undefeated. Should Vandy be ranked ahead of Florida State? Vandy, remember, beat South Carolina. South Carolina beat Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech beat NC State. NC State beat Virginia. The point is, the transitive property does not work in college football, and results are not repeatable necessarily in college football. Let me give you another example. If Florida State and Virginia played next weekend, and I'm asking the Florida State man right now, if Florida State and Virginia played next weekend, would you bet on Virginia to win? No, you wouldn't. And if you would, you're retarded. I wouldn't bet on Virginia to beat Florida State next weekend. Well, they just played and Virginia beat them. And they get a check mark in the win column for that. And you get a check mark in the loss column for that. Beyond that, it doesn't mean anything. Results are not repeatable in college football necessarily. You'd beat East Texas A&M Barber College or whatever that you beat 70-0 a few weeks ago. You'd beat them 10 out of 10. Yeah. But when you look at Virginia and Florida State, neither of those teams is winning 10 out of 10. So I'll ask you again, Florida State man, if Florida State was playing Virginia next weekend, would you bet on Virginia to win? No, you wouldn't. Well, guess what? There's a lot of people that if Alabama and Florida State were playing next weekend, they would not bet on Florida State to win. Just because you beat them once doesn't automatically mean you'll beat them again. You could, because you're a good team. It's like Alabama's a good team. Florida State better still be ranked ahead of Bama, because Florida State beat Bama. They have the same record. Well, you got the same record as Virginia, bud, and nobody in their right mind is going to rank Virginia ahead of Florida State. Nobody, including you, by the way. There's not a Florida State fan that would rank Virginia ahead of Florida State. Nor should they. When you rank teams week to week, you're not ranking what they did yesterday. You're ranking what they have done over the entirety of the season. So the further you get into the season, the more data points you have to look at, the more games have been played. So yes, when you beat Alabama in week 1, you 100% should have been ranked ahead of Alabama. 100%. I agree with that. I ranked you ahead of Alabama after the week 1 game. In fact, I took Alabama out of my top 25 altogether after the week 1 game because we had one data point. And for Bama, it was a loss. And for Florida State, it was a win. So I moved Florida State way up in my ranking, dropped Alabama out. Alabama beats a couple of nobodies, beats Wisconsin. I think I had Alabama. Well, hell, here's my top 15 shelf, the white shelf. I didn't have Alabama in my top 15 heading into yesterday. Now they've beat Georgia. You've lost to Virginia. I'm not ranking just when I redo my rankings tomorrow, Monday. I'm not just ranking what happened yesterday. I'm ranking everything that has happened in the season up to this point, which is why I'm not going to rank Virginia ahead of Florida State tomorrow. I'm not going to do that. I think Virginia has a worse loss than Florida State does. Florida State has a loss to Virginia. Virginia has a loss to NC State. I think that's a worse loss. Bama has a loss to Florida State. Georgia has a loss to Bama. Which one of those losses is worse? It's not as simple as this team beat that team, therefore rank that team there. It's just not that simple. And the further you get into the season, the less simple it gets. But Florida State fans are retarded. They're still trying to overcompensate for the 2-10 season they had last year when they just got buried by everybody on the internet week in and week out. So this season started with a big win for them over Alabama. They are a much better team. They are way improved. They're a top 15 team. Zero doubt or question. I had them at fucking 5. I had Florida State at 5. Because I already know y'all are probably down there, right? This guy's a hater. Guy just hates Florida State. I had you at 5. I had you at 5. I had you behind Ohio State, Miami, Oregon, Georgia, Florida State. Georgia was 4. Florida State was 5. They both lost. They'll both be moving this direction. Bama, who was not in my top 15, will be somewhere on here. Virginia won't. You're retarded. You went 2-10 last year. It doesn't matter what you do. Hey, it doesn't matter what you do this year. You will always have went 2-10. In 2024. Your season's not over. Don't worry. Your season's not over. You play Miami this week. You got to beat them. 100%. Here's the thing with that Virginia-NC State game, which is weird and interesting. And this has happened before. Virginia and NC State were both unable to fill their non-con schedule. The ACC plays 8 conference games this season. They're changing to 9 in the future, but this year they play 8. Virginia and NC State were both unable to fill their non-con schedule. So they played each other, but it was a non-con game, even though they're both in the ACC. It sounds confusing. You're like, what? Yes. The Virginia-NC State game that I talked about a few minutes ago, NC State beat Virginia. Virginia doesn't have any ACC losses. Their loss is technically a non-con loss. That is important to know because that means Florida State is now 2 games behind Virginia. If Virginia loses an ACC game, that'll be their first ACC loss. Florida State has 1 ACC loss, but Virginia beat Florida State head-to-head, so Virginia holds a tiebreaker over Florida State. Virginia has to lose more ACC games than Florida State in order for Florida State to move ahead of Virginia in the ACC rankings, which is what determines who goes to the ACC championship game. If Florida State loses to Miami this weekend, they will have 2 ACC losses, and Virginia will have none, which will mean Virginia will be 3 games ahead of Florida State in the ACC standings. And I haven't even talked about Georgia Tech, who got a miracle win yesterday, or Louisville, who is still undefeated. Next week's game is do or die for Florida State. So the Virginia game in and of itself doesn't eliminate Florida State from any of their goals, ACC title or playoffs. What it does do is make this week's game against Miami the most important Miami game that Florida State has played in 30 years, probably. Because one or both of those teams has been bad the majority of times that they've played lately. Not the case here. Both teams are good. Both teams have their eyes set on Charlotte and the ACC championship. Both teams have their eyes set on the playoffs. And if Florida State loses that game to Miami and takes their second ACC loss, they're going to be 3 games behind Miami and 3 games behind Virginia. They'll be 2 games behind Georgia Tech and 2 games behind Louisville. They'll be in 5th place at that point, tied with like the SMUs or Dukes of the world, whatever. When you look at the standings, but that makes this game against Miami massive for Florida State. Like Georgia, Florida State has used up a mulligan here. And you don't get very many. Age of the 12-team playoff, you do get some. Where, history of college football used to be you lose a game, that's pretty much it. You're not winning the Natty. That's it. You almost had to go undefeated, maybe 1 loss. That's not the case now with a 12-team playoff. But, boy, 2 games behind Virginia and Miami staring back at you right now, game in 6 days. Massive, massive game between Florida State and Miami. And Miami is coming off of a bye week. You're coming off of getting your ass beat by Virginia. Yeah, big facts on that. Huge even, too. LSU. All right. That's it for the your season is over list. I want to run through a couple of team schedules here. LSU lost yesterday to Ole Miss. So somebody say, well, still a good team. It's only 1 loss. You can still make the ACC championship, still make the playoffs. Yeah, mathematically, yeah. But we've now seen LSU through the first 5 weeks of the season. We've seen their offense be piss poor constantly, right? They now have a loss. You think they're getting through this schedule? Listen to this. Their next game is against South Carolina. They'll likely win that one. But then, at Vandy, that's not a gimme. Home against Texas A&M, not a gimme. At Bama, definitely not a gimme. Home against Arkansas. And you close the season out on the road at Oklahoma. Let me ask you something. Is there anything you've seen from LSU this season that makes you think they can get a first down against Oklahoma, never mind score enough points to win that game? I told y'all in the preseason when I did the LSU prediction video and the Oklahoma prediction video, LSU's going to get to that Oklahoma game with 2 losses and they're going to lose. They're going to get to that game with 2 losses, already out of the SEC championship game, but a chance to make the playoffs as an at-large 10-2 team if they can win against Oklahoma on the road in the last game of the regular season, and they're not going to do it. They're going to lose because that'll be a huge game. And Brian Kelly, in case you have been in a 15-year coma, cannot win big games, period. And you may have 3 or 4 losses by the time you get to that Oklahoma game, but best case, you're losing at least one of the following games. At Vandy, home against Texas A&M, at Bama. You're losing at least one of those. If you lose one, then you're going to go to Oklahoma the last week of the regular season with 2 losses. And you're going to catch a 3rd loss to Oklahoma. You're not making the playoffs. Sorry. That was a tough loss for you yesterday, bud. But you're not making the playoffs. Penn State, we already went through their schedule. Southern Cal lost yesterday. No defense again. What a shock. Listen to this schedule. Can they make the playoffs? No. They play Michigan next. at Notre Dame, at Nebraska, home against Northwestern. Okay, that's the first game I see that I go, they'll definitely win. They're not definitely beating Michigan. They're not definitely winning at Notre Dame. They're not definitely winning at Nebraska. Could win them, not definitely, but they're definitely beating Northwestern. Then they host Iowa. Then they play at Oregon. And then UCLA, who they will beat at the end of the year. They're losing 2 of those games at least, I think. I don't think Southern Cal's making the playoffs. 1 loss, yes, that's true. Only 1 loss. There's 2 more losses on here. Trojan man. Make sure you use protection, but yeah. All right, let's talk about some of these other games. Didn't take these helmets down, but some of these things were interesting to me for one reason or another. Houston, 27-24 in overtime, defeats Oregon State. That means Houston is now 4-0, and Oregon State 0-5. 0-5 for Oregon State. Indiana beat Iowa, close game, scored 1 million points last week against Illinois, beat Iowa 20-15, a road game. So beat in Iowa, they win 20-15. Indiana 5-0. Iowa State beat Arizona 39-14. Iowa State's 5-0. A lot of undefeated teams left. Georgia Tech, miracle. Boy, the officiating. The officiating is as bad as it's ever been. We're going to talk about that in a second. They beat Wake Forest 20-19 in overtime. Vandy wins again. Vandy is 5-0. 5-0 Vandy. 55-35 over Utah State. Missouri won again. 5-0 Missouri now. Notre Dame beat Arkansas. Sam Pittman, start brushing up your resume, bud. You're gone. Adios. Out of there. Pack it up. Get to stepping. First thing smoking. Not working. Sam Pittman going to be gone from Arkansas. Notre Dame absolutely destroyed them 56-13. BYU comes from behind to beat Colorado. Colorado's dog shit, and BYU is 4-0. Amazing. Colorado's now 2-3. Their only 2 wins, Delaware and Wyoming. Deion's not a head coach. He's a hype man. He's like Flava Flav was to Public Enemy. He's not the talent. He's just the hype man. Doesn't know what he's doing. Louisville won again, beat Pitt 34-27. Louisville remains undefeated. North Texas. Yeah, this North Texas right here. This black and green one. North Texas won again. Why am I mentioning it? I'm adding North Texas to my list of teams that could make the playoffs from the group of 5. They're undefeated. They look good. They looked good again this weekend, 36-22 they won. They're now 5-0. James Madison, chance to make the playoffs. They do have 1 loss, but it's to Louisville. James Madison could potentially be your group of 5 team that makes the playoffs. They beat Georgia Southern 35-10. UCLA lost again, this time to Northwestern. UCLA now 0-4. Utah, nice rebound win for Utah. Lost last week to Texas Tech, blown out really in the 4th quarter. Got away from them. Nice rebound for Utah, winning at West Virginia 48-14. That can be a tough place to play. Utah still 4-1, not out of it in the Big 12 by any means. Navy undefeated. Navy. Shout out Navy. They've got a chance to be the group of 5 team to get in the playoffs. Tulane won again, 31-14 over Tulsa. They're now 4-1, but they also have a chance to be the group of 5 team that makes the playoff, in my opinion. Memphis, much to my chagrin, remains undefeated at 5-0. They could potentially make the playoffs. I'm pulling for Memphis. Come on, Memphis. I want Memphis in the playoffs. And I want them to play Georgia in a bad way. Fuck Memphis. Boise State has not lost since losing to South Florida. They're 3-1. And South Carolina beat Kentucky yesterday. And thank God they did. Not because it's Kentucky or anything about Kentucky. South Carolina needed that win. Why? Listen to South Carolina's next 5 games. These are South Carolina's next 5 games. At LSU. Home against Oklahoma. Home against Bama. On the road at Ole Miss. On the road at Texas A&M. Hey, good luck, bud. I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell Carolina Jackpot and the Gamecock, man. I don't know what to tell you on that there, dude. And you do have a bye week, but you play 4 of those games in a row. The next 4. At LSU, home against Oklahoma, home against Bama, at Ole Miss. You play those 4 weeks in a row. Then you get a bye week. Then you're on the road at Texas A&M. You're losing all 5 of those games. God almighty, man. Y'all fell off a cliff, bud. Y'all fell off a cliff, my guy. You're losing all 5 of those, so it's a good thing you beat Kentucky yesterday. Best teams I've seen so far, not yesterday. We're a month through the season, basically. These are teams that at least at some point I've gone, Mike can make a playoff run. In no order. Ohio State, Miami, Indiana, Alabama, Florida State, Oregon, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Georgia, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Texas. Is anybody I didn't just name winning a natty? No, I don't think so. Paper plate special this week. Who was supposed to play football yesterday? But instead of doing that, they showed up, pushed one of those divided plastic plates out onto the 50-yard line, dropped their drawers and took a giant runny dump in it instead of playing football. Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart is this week's paper plate special. He continues to embarrass himself on a near yearly basis every time he plays Alabama. Not that losing to Alabama necessarily in any random given year is embarrassing. Alabama tends to be good more often than not. So it's not that in and of just losing to Bama by itself. Okay. But in Kirby's case, it's every damn time. He's now 1-6, 1-7, whatever it is against Bama. He's now lost to Bama in Atlanta, in Tuscaloosa, and in Athens. Running out of places to lose to him now, to Bama now. Alabama's been through 2 different head coaches during that time. They've been through about 7 different quarterbacks in that time. They've been through about 6 or 7 different offensive and defensive coordinators in that time. Georgia's been better than Alabama some of those times. Georgia has had leads in some of those games. None of it matters. Kirby Smart finds a way to lose to Alabama every single time Georgia and Alabama play. Every time. Invents new ways to lose. A lot of these big games, you go, well, whoever runs the ball probably stands a good chance to win. Keep the other team off the field, control the clock, time of possession. Georgia had 230 yards rushing yesterday. Alabama had 120. Half of what Georgia had rushing. 230 yards Georgia had. Georgia lost, and Alabama had the ball for 10 minutes more than Georgia. Alabama had the ball for 35 minutes. Georgia had it for 25. That don't add up. How do you run for 230 yards? The other team runs for 110, but they have 10 minutes more than you time of possession. 3 and outs. That's why. Multiple 3 and outs for Georgia offensively. Nothing new, especially against Bama. Drop passes. Nothing new, especially against Bama. Sluggish start to the game, come out unprepared, both defensively and offensively. Nothing new, especially against Alabama. This was 100% the paper plate special. Kirby Smart is not free from blame, and he's not free from criticism, nor is any coach or player in college football, no matter how many games they've won currently or in the past. There is no such thing as a perfect player, and there is no such thing as a perfect coach. Kirby Smart is not above criticism. And it is Kirby's fault and Kirby's fault alone that Georgia has a 1-7 record against Bama since his time, but whatever the record is. It's on Kirby. Multiple offensive coordinators, multiple quarterbacks, roster turned over 4 and 5 times, played them here, played them there, played them on the moon, played them everywhere. Can't beat them. Can't beat them. Paper plate special. Kirby fucking Smart. Get your shit together, son. Get your shit together. We're back list. You know what this is? These are teams who haven't won anything in at least 10 years. By not won anything, I mean they haven't won their conference and they haven't won a playoff game in at least 10 years. And we rank them in order of how close we think they are to actually doing that. In addition to that, for the requirements, they have to have a significant fan base on the internet that's always telling us they are back or they're, next year's our year, that kind of thing. Number 1, Miami. They've been telling us they're back for 30 years since they entered the ACC. Meanwhile, they haven't won it a single time, and they've never even made the playoffs, never mind actually won a playoff game. But they're number 1 on the list because they're the closest, I think, of these we're back teams to actually being back. They could win the ACC this year. They could make the playoffs this year. They could win a playoff game this year. We'll see. They're number 1. Texas A&M, number 2. They're undefeated. Couple of good wins. They beat Auburn at home. They beat Notre Dame on the road. A lot of tough games coming up, though, for A&M. Can they hang in there? Can they make the SEC championship game or the playoffs? They're on the outside looking in. They're undefeated, but they have some tough games left, and I just don't know if they're going to hold up against that schedule, but they're number 2 right now. Tennessee is number 3. Tennessee might actually be a better team than Texas A&M, but Texas A&M right now has no losses. Tennessee has a loss, and it's an SEC loss, puts them a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of making the SEC championship game. So it's really close between Texas. If Tennessee and Texas A&M were to play, I would probably pick Tennessee to win. But remember, this is the we're back list. It's not who I think is better. This is like, I don't necessarily think Miami would beat Tennessee. Actually, I do think that. Miami would beat Tennessee. But like Miami's in the ACC, easier path to win a conference title than Tennessee. So you get what I'm saying, right? Anyway, Texas A&M 2, Tennessee 3. Then I draw a line there. Those 3 teams have a legitimate chance this year to get off that list. These next 3 teams on the list have no chance of getting off this list this year or any time in the foreseeable future. Nebraska at 4, not impressive to me at all. Lost to Michigan. I know they only have 1 loss. They're not doing anything noteworthy this year. Auburn, toilet bowl. Go ahead and flush it. You're circling the drain. Go ahead. End your misery now. Flush it. Florida, dead program. Just a dead program. Not even really worth talking about anymore. Heisman list. Tylenol Simpson. Fuck. Tylenol Simpson played out of his mind yesterday. Now, he played out of his mind the last 2 games, too, against Wisconsin and like Louisiana Monroe or whatever, but it's easy to look the other way on that because they're so bad. He completed 41 of 45 passes in his last 2 games coming into Athens, and he was lights out yesterday. He didn't put up necessarily like jaw-dropping numbers against Georgia, but if you watched the game yesterday, he was in complete control of that Alabama offense. Georgia was never able to get to him. Anytime they did look like they might get to him, he dumped it off, got rid of it. He had a couple of scrambles when he needed to. He was probably the best player in the game yesterday on either team, was Tylenol Simpson. I've added him to my Heisman list. I've got Dante Moore on my Heisman list. Quiet start to the season for Dante Moore because who had they played? Well, Oregon ain't played nobody. But he put up video game numbers against bad teams, including Oklahoma State. Goes on the road yesterday and had really good numbers against a really good Penn State defense and gets a win on the road at night in a whiteout game against Penn State. And even though I know Penn State's offense is terrible and Dew Aller and James Franklin, blah, 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 they do have a good defense, and Dante Moore did what he needed to do. Carson Beck off this week, so you're not going to hear anything about him or Miami, but Carson Beck is off to a good start at Miami. Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback for Indiana. Indiana's a problem. Indiana's a problem. You know how I say I hope Georgia makes the playoffs and gets like a home game and hosts Memphis. That's what I want. I want to beat the fuck out of Memphis. You know what I don't want? I don't want to play Indiana. Because if I lose to Indiana, like I'll be in a bad fucking way. I would be in a bad fucking way if I had to lose to Indiana. And they're a problem. They're a problem. And Fernando Mendoza playing at a higher level. And Trinidad and Tobago, the backup quarterback for Ole Miss, who's now the starter. Video game numbers every single week since Austin Simmons got hurt. The guy is a machine. If you have not watched Ole Miss in Trinidad and Tobago, if you have not watched him play quarterback at Ole Miss, watch him play. He's an absolute machine. Now, those are all quarterbacks because that's who's likely to win the Heisman in any given year. I've got 4 other players that I think are 4 of the best players in college football. And if someone other than a quarterback is going to win the Heisman, it might be one of these 4 people. Jeremiah Smith, of course, the wide receiver for Ohio State. Ahmad Hardy, running back from Missouri, 2nd or 3rd in the country in rush yards. Justice Haynes, 2nd or 3rd in the country in rush yards, running back from Michigan. Jeremiah Love, welcome to 2025, bud. I've been waiting on you. Jeremiah Love was one of my preseason picks to win the Heisman. Quiet start to the season for him because Notre Dame started 0-2. And he beat Purdue last week. No one really cared. Yesterday, they go down to Arkansas, ran Arkansas out of their own stadium, and Jeremiah Love looked like the best player in college football yesterday. He had 4 touchdowns in the first half, 2 rushing and 2 receiving. Welcome to 2025, Jeremiah Love, one of the best players in all of college football. Here's my list, a group of 5 teams that right now I think could potentially find themselves in the playoffs. Of course, one group of 5 team is guaranteed to get in, one and only one. I think it's going to be one of these. South Florida, Boise State, Tulane, North Texas, Navy, Memphis, James Madison. There you go. There you go. Playoff eliminator. I'm glad you asked. These are the teams already eliminated previously. Clemson, Notre Dame, Florida, South Carolina, and Kansas State. Clemson was 4th in the preseason, not making the playoffs. Notre Dame was 6th in the preseason, not making the playoffs. Florida was 15, not making the playoffs. South Carolina was 13, not making the playoffs. Might not win another game. God dang. Kansas State, that's on me. I'm retarded. But they were 17th and not making the playoffs. I'm at Auburn. You're not making the playoffs. Sorry. You're dog shit. Hugh Freeze doesn't know what he's doing. Jackson Arnold's terrible. Southern Cal, only one loss. So, yeah, mathematically alive. But no defense for the 9th year in a row for Lincoln Riley. And I just read their schedule off to you earlier in the video. You're not making the playoffs. Sorry. LSU, preseason number 9. I'm crossing you off the playoff list. Month through the season, you've got nothing that even resembles an offense, and now your best player's hurt. That running back Durham. You're not making the playoffs. SMU was ranked 16th in the preseason somehow. Remember them? Me too, but barely. They're not making the playoffs. What else do we got? LSU, I already said them. All right. Yeah, so that's who's eliminated from the playoffs. Juice Poot special. Yeah, oh yeah, Juice Poot special. Did I write this down? Thought I did. Where the hell? How in the hell? Yeah, Juice Poot special. Here we go. Georgia. Hey, I might actually, you know what? I need to watch Josh Pate tonight. I'm down bad. I'm in a bad way. My favorite team got beat yesterday in a big game at home. I'm humiliated. The entire internet is laughing and pointing at me. I'm depressed. I'm miserable. I'm having to walk around all day cuddling my anxiety doll just to keep from jumping out of a window. What could I possibly do to make myself feel better? Oh yeah, I'll listen to Josh Pate tonight. Since Georgia lost yesterday, he's sure to come on and tell everybody not to worry. Don't be alarmed. Don't panic. Georgia's still a really good team. Kirby Smart really does know what he's doing, even though it appears like he does not know what he's doing every time he plays Alabama. Georgia's still going to win a lot of games. They still got a chance to make the SEC championship game. They still got a chance to make the playoff. All of that might be true, but you know what he's going to leave out that I'll go ahead and tell you now? Yeah, some of that might be true. If they do make the SEC championship game or the playoffs, they better hope that somebody else eliminates Bama because Georgia can't beat them, and that's just the reality and the bottom line. And, of course, he's going to hug Florida State fan real tight. He's been kissing Florida State fans' ass for 2 years now because, boy, he pissed them off during that whole playoff debacle when Florida State got left out because he was on video like 2 weeks before they announced the playoffs saying he was 100% fully in favor of Florida State getting in regardless of the injury to their quarterback. Then when Florida State didn't get in, he changed his tune to appease Bama fans because Bama did get in. And he didn't want to make the Bama fans mad. So he was like, I think they got it right. Bama deserved to be in over Florida State. Then the Florida State fans got wind of what he said and said, well, what about what you said 2 weeks ago? But that just kind of proves my point with Juice Poot. He's casting a wide net. He says whatever he thinks the most amount of people want to hear at that particular time. So when he made that comment about Florida State making the playoffs, there was a lot of Florida State fans dialed into his show and every other show because they wanted to be reassured that even without their quarterback, they were still going to get into the playoffs. And so Josh Pate cast a wide net around them, got them all to subscribe and told them what they wanted to hear. Then when they got left out, Alabama fans were ecstatic. They ran to the Josh Pate and everywhere else channel to hear that they deserve to be in and they should be in over Florida State. So what does Josh Pate do? Yeah, you deserve to be in. You're a good team. We're going to pat you on your peanut head, blah, blah, blah. So he's going to go out of his way tonight to reassure the Florida State fans that, trust me, I'm on your side. That's what he'll do. That's Juice Poot special. There you go. Your season is over. Week 5, Georgia lost. They're dog shit. They'll probably never win another game. Good thing Georgia won 2 natties a couple of years ago because they don't have any chance of ever winning one again ever from now to the end of time. They suck. They're dog shit. Kirby Smart's no good. Gunnar Staunton doesn't know what he's doing. Can't beat Bama to save their life. They're complete and total fucking dog shit. Is that what you wanted to hear? All right. I do appreciate y'all watching. My top 25 will be updated tomorrow on Monday. I've got the call-in show Tuesday night at 9. Call me up, roast me, tell me how terrible Georgia is. That'll be fine. Can't wait to hear from you. Anyway, I hope everybody enjoyed this weekend of college football. It was one of the best weekends of college football we've had in a long, long time. There was amazing endings, big games, top 10 matchups, great environments. It really was a good weekend of football. It sucks for me that Georgia lost. It sucks for all of y'all down there. If you're a fan of one of those teams, I get that. But overall, I thought it was a great weekend of college football. So anyway, week 5 in the books. We'll do it again next week. Until then, though, have a good morning.